Paul Kedrosky, CNBC analyst. What grade do you give Obama? On economics, at least.
On economics. I actually give him a fairly decent grade, like probably from my C plus, B minus, which is about as good as he's going to get in the circumstances, in large part because he didn't make things worse. Because things could have been made much, much worse. And there were many people proposing things that would have made things much, much worse when he came into office. There's a whole camp of people that says, and it's a very sort of Calvinistic view of the economy, that we need to suffer now. We need to suffer immediately. We need to make people hurt. And the way we do that is this kind of 1929, early 1920s approach of things, which is to say we let everything kind of purge the system.
Hoover.
The Hoover answer, right? And we say that the system just needs to purge all of its excesses. And in the context of what we had in 2008, that would have meant letting banks fail, letting many cities, many states, and many individuals, obviously, all fail at once. And Obama didn't take that advice and didn't go that direction. Now, there's a good argument to be made that had we done that, the current problems we're having now, which with respect to sovereign debt and other things, wouldn't be going on, but we'd have different problems, which would be like we would all be living in wooden fortresses watching for people with our snipers on the edge, right? I mean, because it would be we'd be back to the world of
Well, I used to live in Alabama. I think that's how most people live there anyway.
My understanding. So yeah, so that's what we'd be looking. That's the problem, is right. We don't have a good. What would the world have looked like if we had done that? So it's a great thought experiment. What if we had done these things and let all these institutions fail at once? The current administration, led by Obama, decided not to go down that route, not to go down the purge route, not to go down the route of saying let's let everything go. But that has had other consequences, and most importantly, the consequence that all of this, the badness in the system, the cancer in the system, moved from the banks to the government level, and that's why we're sitting on epic levels of debt to GDP at the level of the sovereign debt of the United States. So I give him a decent grade because I believe that the evidence says it would have been much worse in this counterfactual, in the case of having let everything fail. But there are an awful lot of people who very strongly argue that all we're doing is kicking the can down the road, and the solution later on will be more expensive, more time-consuming, just more costly and more awful. I don't personally believe that, but there's lots of credible cases you can make and lots of evidence you can marshal to make that case.
So Obama has a couple of years left, maybe 6 years left to fix this thing. What should he do?
Oh, I think there's no doubt that from the standpoint of at a highest level, let's stay away from technology and growth for a second, but from the standpoint of just sort of government solvency, the path is to lay out and say, here's how I'm going to deal with the current U.S. problems with respect to this sort of structural deficit, which is to say that even if we were to ignore all of the money we're spending currently on stimulus and everything else, there is now a structural deficit in the U.S. that is at very, very high levels. And the reasons why we have that deficit, this imbalance between spending and revenues, is because of many things we anticipated a long time ago, which have to do with Social Security programs and the entitlement programs in the United States and how we pay in and how they pay out. And as a result, with this giant generation of boomers retiring, we can forecast right now that the current entitlement program is only going to, or problems are only going to get worse, and that we really, in a sense, are writing checks, or at least making promises that we really can't, abide by. And so what he should be doing is mapping out the glide path. What his job right now should be is to say, and I'm anticipating it's what he'll do at the beginning of the next administration, is say, this is the direction we're going to, here's how we're going to unwind all of these things that unfortunately we can no longer stand by, which is to say, retirement ages are going to go up. There's no way around it. Retirement ages across the board in the United States, and they're already on their way up. They're already up in states and cities, but it's going to go up across the board. The kinds of benefits you're going to receive in retirement are going to change. All of those things are going to be transformative and are going to be, truly wrenching for this country. And I don't think we can just tie it to the people who will retire in future. It's not going to just be future beneficiaries. It's going to have to start, and this is going to be the most unpalatable part, it's going to have to start with people who are out there now, because if we just say, you're 20 years old, when you retire, you're going to now retire at 67 or 72 or something like that. We can't get away with that, because the problem is that all that does is says in 40 years we'll have solved the problem. Well, that's too late. I need to deal with the entitlement issue now. So if we want to make the U.S. a healthier, more dynamic, growing economy that people feel comfortable investing in and with, you've got to map out the glide path for how we deal with this entitlement issue, which is really the cause of the structural deficit in the U.S., which makes the U.S. a much less, financially healthy place than it otherwise should be.
One-word answer, Paul. Should Obama raise taxes?
Oh, he has to. Yes.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Has to, yes.
Are you a socialist?
Yes, I'm a socialist. I'm a pragmatist.